David, all of those whatever those messages were all deleted. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Okay. They're not preserved.
No, what I'm saying is that the one instance that I did use Signal, it was an oral communication telephone call with the members of the Department of Homeland Security. I believe it was their breach response team. That's the one and only instance that I ever used Signal.
Okay. Well, did your organization, did your department respond that none of the messages on Signal were preserved in the filing from yesterday from the U.S. Attorney's Office?
I don't believe there were messages. There was an oral communication, not text messages or anything to my knowledge. At least in my case, I only used it once as I described.
All right. Well, let me read this to you. However, until that time, the Signal messaging application was not approved for use on DHS devices. However, I was one of a small number of users authorized to install the application on my OIG-issued cell phone for the limited purpose of discussing via secure means the response to the above described apparent breach of DHS computer networks. So that's the messaging you're talking about?
That's the oral communication, not a message. I just want to be clear with the committee.
Okay, and then in the next paragraph down, you said, no more than a few weeks after installing the Signal application, I deleted Signal from my OIG-issued cell phone because I no longer had use for it.
That's
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so any messages that are unavailable were not based on you deleting anything. That's just, they were not preserved in some way?
No, what I'm saying, just to be clear, Congressman, I did not use Signal to do messaging. I used it to do a telephone call at the request of DHS.
All right. And there was nothing was done to preserve anything with respect to those telephone calls?
I don't, unless we had a Title III or some other electronic intercept of my oral communications, I don't believe there would be a message that would be preserved.
All right. Let me ask you this question. With respect to the January 6th documentation from the Secret Service, all right, and there was a 14-month delay before you notified Congress that of that issue with respect to the deletion of the Secret Service texts?
Just to be clear, I answered that question previously, and it's not 14 months. We learned that DHS deleted all the email, all the text messages from the Secret Service phones. We learned that in February of 2022.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Now I have Mr. Perry.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kafari, as often is the case, I'm left with correcting, clarifying the record in these hearings. Comprehensive immigration reform, as decried by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, is generally known and perceived rightly so as amnesty for breaking America's laws. Therefore, that they lament the fact that we're not interested in allowing people that come across our border illegally, bringing fentanyl, engaged in human trafficking, gang activity. We're not interested in providing amnesty for their lawlessness. So no, there is not going to be comprehensive immigration reform because that's what it includes. Just let the record reflect that. Regarding my colleague who complained about the rape of his constituent and the fact that it seemed like the person that was deported had more rights than she did, I would just remind my colleague on the other side of the aisle that they support that. They've supported that in all the cities that they run across the country and at the southern border. They support that lawlessness. And so it's rich for him to come in and complain on her behalf when he and his party have been aiding and abetting it for years upon years. And Mr. Goldman says that we don't want to talk about guns. We're happy to talk about Fast and Furious, where that party, his party, took guns across the border to Mexican cartels that were used to kill Americans trying to protect this border. But they didn't want to talk about it. Eric Holder didn't want to talk about it, was held in contempt, and they still don't want to talk about it. And it's rich for Mr. Goldman to talk about you promoting falsehoods while he sat at the front and center of impeachment of a president based entirely on falsehood, which he was well aware of at the time and is well aware of right now. I know, you're laughing it up over there, aren't you? You're laughing it up because you're full of perfidy. Lies and more lies and more lies. Mr. Cuffari, it's been alleged or averred that more people would make it better. More people, more Border Patrol agents. Mr. Goldman said more judges. More would make it better. Here's what also would make it better, I think. If less people were allowed to cross the border illegally, would that make it better?
That certainly would help, yes.
If there were less people crossing illegally, would we need more judges to deal with those less people crossing illegally?
You would need more judges to process people who were claiming asylum.
Right, but they're crossing illegally and claiming asylum based on their illegal crossing. The point is, yeah, we can hire as many as we want to, but as long as you're going to let more and more and more unstoppable people coming across the border illegally, you're never going to have enough. The solution is not to hire more people. The solution is to stop the people from coming across illegally. That's the solution. To get you to say that the solution is actually to hire more people belies the fact that people are coming across illegally because of the policies of my friends on the other side of the aisle, and no other reason. For no other reason. Was the border ever manageable before without hiring more people? Let me ask you that question. Was it ever manageable before without hiring more people?
According to my personal experience, it was manageable starting in 1994.
You did a survey, 9,300 and change, 16% of the total population surveyed, much more than most of the polls that this operation runs to determine public opinion about who's going to vote for what. And you're being criticized here today for the survey. And some Border Patrol agents said that local management would transport migrants out of the facility before a visit and return them after the visit ended. Why would they do that? Why would that happen?
I can't answer that, sir. That's
I don't know.
individuals.
Hazard a guess.
Let me say, in my experience, I didn't see that happen.
Well, how would you see it happen? How would you see it happen if they moved them before you got there and moved them back after you left? How would you see it happen?
We also do unannounced inspections when they don't know that we're coming to a particular
Right.
detention.
But still, you don't know that, right? But these are Border Patrol agents saying it. Are Border Patrol agents signing up for overseeing meal delivery, restocking snacks and hygiene products? Is that why people want to secure the border? Is that the job that they're looking for when they sign up and say, I want to be a Border Patrol agent, I want to replenish the snack supply for people coming across illegally? Is that like the #1 request on their list of job assignments?
That's the frustration that they described.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the balance.
Mr. Frost.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cuffari, the Office of Personnel Management's Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey is a tool for federal agency employees to provide feedback on how engaged they are in their work. When people are engaged at work, they're more effective at their jobs, they perform the work more efficiently, and part of the principal's job is keeping their team engaged. In other words, the Federal Employee Viewpoint Surveys can reveal what leadership techniques are working for agency executives and which ones are not. In fact, Mr. Cuffari, you regularly tout your office's Federal Employee Viewpoint S-score since you've taken over as Inspector General. In May 2022, in a letter to this committee, you highlighted portions of your office's survey data from 2020 and 2021 that apparently show improvement in employee engagement. And in an email you sent to all your staff in December 2022 that I have here, you again highlighted improvements in your agency's 2022 survey data. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an email between Inspector General Kufari and his office lauding the importance of federal employee viewpoint survey scores.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Kufari, do you agree that the federal employee viewpoint survey data are important indicators for how an agency is performing?
Yes.
That's right. And in the past, you have said that they document progress. However, in the most recent survey data shows that a majority of the people in your office do not believe that their senior leadership maintains high standards of honesty and integrity. 66% of your employees. Mr. Kufari, are you a senior leader?
Yes.
Mr. Kufari, are you aware that nearly half of the employees in the Office of Inspection and Evaluations fear retaliation if they disclose suspected violation of laws, rules, or regulation?
You're asking if I'm aware of it?
Are you aware of that? Are you aware of the
That's
fact that 40% compared to 43% who don't?
No, sir.
Yes, that's a reality through the survey that you tout. Mr. Kufari, how about the fact, do you know about the fact that less than half of your staff in the Office of Counsel feel like they can safely disclose suspected wrongdoing?
Yes.
You are aware of that. Only 45% feel like they can disclose that. I find this incredibly alarming, especially when coupled with the fact that you've run away from any efforts to conduct oversight in your office, using taxpayer money, $1.4 million, to contract a law firm to run away from accountability on your part. And you know, I've seen weak leaders run from accountability before. In my home state of Florida right now, Governor Ron DeSantis is saddling taxpayers with billions in legal fees to defend his unlawful policies with his intimidation, his removal of dissenting officials. He's taking major losses on the backs of taxpayers because private sector officials called out his disastrous agenda. And the Florida legislature has approved a whole new budget to pay for all of his legal losses. But he doesn't want to answer for that. And I admit, at this point, many of us realize that DeSantis gets an F in accountability. However, inspectors general are meant to serve as a safe haven for whistleblowers. How is a whistleblower supposed to trust your office when members of your own staff don't even feel safe to report wrongdoing themselves? I yield to Mr. Ivey.
Mr. Kufari, I'm sorry, I had one question left, or a couple questions left. This is with respect to text messages. With respect to your government-issued iPhone?
Yes.
Did you delete text messages from your government-issued iPhone?
Yes.
Okay. And well, when was that?
It's my normal practice to delete text messages.
So you delete them on an ongoing basis?
That's correct.
All right. Are they stored anywhere?
Jim?
Not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's safe to say based on that at the time you deleted them, you didn't know if they were stored in an alternative place. Is that fair?
Correct. It's
All right.
also fair to note that I don't use my government cell phone to conduct official business.
All right. So your testimony today is that these text messages that you have deleted, or at least some of them, had no federal information or any information that would be implicated under the Federal Records Act.
Under the Federal Records Act, that's correct.
Okay. And so they have no connection to official business at all?
Nothing that would be considered a federal record.
Well, are you using your federal phone for personal purposes then?
No, sir.
All right. Then what's the purpose for using your government-issued phone?
To conduct business.
But not federal business related to your department?
Not federal business, considering that they are records. It's a clearly defined statute that places requirements on what a federal record actually is.
All right. So
So
just final question. So you've made a conscious decision with the documents or the messages you've deleted that the federal records laws did not apply to the messages you deleted.
The messages that I deleted, I did not consider those to be federal records, and therefore I deleted them. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know we were going to be debating 2024 presidential candidates this morning, but welcome to Congress.
Thank you.
In 2019, there were just under 17,000 border agents handling an average of 71,000 monthly encounters. As of 2022, border agents decreased to 16,654, but average monthly encounters rose to around 184,000 encounters. In that time, it's no coincidence there was over a 300% increase in known gotaways. Border agent morale is low, border agent retention is low, and this administration's ability to follow the rule of law is simply in the gutter. I'm very proud of South Carolina. At FLETC, we train Border Patrol agents. I've been to one of their graduations. I know that they put a lot on the line. They work hard. And so the purpose of this hearing today is to talk a little bit about that. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, one agent said under Biden, things are the worst they have ever been by far. Agents are calling in all the time. You always hear, it doesn't matter, what's the point? Agents are afraid of ending up on the news for doing their job or getting in trouble for just doing their job, and there is no morale. Mr. Cuffari, yes or no, is this the same type of sentiment you found when visiting the southwest border from our Border Patrol agents?
Border Patrol agents have expressed similar comments to me and to my staff.
Do you think it's the worst it's ever been for their morale?
It's been significantly increased since I started with my federal civil service in 1993.
Okay, my next question, do you find agents have become apathetic as their concerns and workplace issues are not being addressed? Are they sort of apathetic when you've talked to them?
They express frustration. I must say that the Border Patrol and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents do a great job every single day of the year, and they're just frustrated.
They work very hard, don't they?
They do.
When you speak with Border Patrol agents, do they blame agency leadership? Do they blame the administration, or both, or the status of the border? I mean, who do they blame for this?
They express frustration with both.
All right. Mr. Cuffari, I just want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate your work regarding the sad state of affairs that is the Border Patrol agents' morale. I think it's very clear and evident today. It doesn't take a 65-page report to realize something is wrong. It's self-evident. It's undeniable. Thank you for answering my questions today. While my colleagues on the other side of the aisle knew this was a problem, their goal has always been to punish or push our Border Patrol issues to the brink of unsustainability. And that's where we are today. What we are doing along our southern border is completely unsustainable. It's a consistent strategy. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And unfortunately, this plan has come at the expense of deadly journeys for migrants, vilification of our border agents, and a less safe country for American citizens. Last year, or last Congress, when the left had the House, they had the Senate, they had the White House on this committee, I remember having one hearing about the border. And it was about the northern border, where we were getting less than 10,000 illegal immigrants coming across the northern border every year. And today, you know, we saw even last year and over the growth of illegal immigrants coming and crossing over the southern border daily. It far surpasses. And I hope that Republican leadership can hold this administration accountable. Thank you, and I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. LaTurner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and thank you, Mr. Cuffari, for being here today. America's Border Patrol agents put their lives on the line to secure our border and halt the flow of illegal immigrants, drugs, weapons, and human trafficking from entering our country. For far too long under this administration, these brave men and women have been understaffed and without adequate resources to do their job effectively, and that needs to change. Between fiscal years 2020 and 2022, your recent report found the number of Border Patrol agents guarding the southwest border fell slightly, while monthly encounters with illegal aliens spiked by a staggering 450%. Your report also found that FY 2022 set the record for migrant deaths, with more than 800 migrants dying while attempting to cross the southwest border. These are not just statistics, they represent a very real crisis at the border that remains unaddressed by the Biden administration. Unsurprisingly, 88% of ICE and CBP agents you surveyed said their duty locations are not adequately staffed to handle the surge of people streaming across our border. And to further compound the problem, 24% of respondents said they plan to leave their respective agencies within the calendar year. It's a dangerous and demanding job in the first place, and it's clear from your reporting that morale amongst our border agents is lower than ever before. One agent testified that due to a significant shift in immigration policies from the prior administration, it feels like they are trying to do their job, quote, with one hand tied behind their back. Mr. Cuffari, amongst the agents you surveyed, which policy changes did they say most hindered their efforts to protect our border?
The unknown, lawsuits, there's just a whole wide variety of concerns.
Would the current number of agents be better able to maintain control of the southwest border if Remain in Mexico was still in place?
More individuals certainly would help stem the flow of illegal immigration.
I understand that, but the Remain in Mexico policy, if that was still in place, would that help them maintain control of the southwest border? From the people that, your observations.
I can't speak to the policy decisions.
You concluded your report with 3 recommendations to remedy the staffing shortage at CBP and ICE. The Biden administration agreed with 2 of them, but rejected the first under the premise the agency's staffing models are already sufficient and that your report did not recognize all the DHS initiatives to support its personnel. Do you agree with that assessment?
No.
According to your report, between fiscal year 2019 and 2022, there was a 303% increase in known gotaways. Is this occurring because there are no agents available to respond?
According to the agents who were on the border, yes.
Your report details that at one southwest border station, 15% of gotaways in a 5-day period occurred because no agents were available to respond. How common of an occurrence is that?
It's, to my knowledge, it's a weekly occurrence.
What impact does the staffing shortage have on efforts to combat human trafficking, drug smuggling, and other illicit activities?
A negative impact.
Given the increasing demand for cybersecurity expertise, what steps is the department taking to recruit and retain individuals with specialized skills in this area?
I believe the department implemented a HR program to provide additional funding, like an enhancement to basic salary for those types of career fields, those jobs that relate to that.
Are there any partnerships or collaborations with educational institutions or industry to enhance recruitment that you know of specifically?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Your report also detailed CBP and ICE's use of details and overtime as a staffing mechanism. How efficient is this from a budget perspective? And is this an approach that is the best use of taxpayer money?
It's driving a huge cost in terms of expenditures of money to the department.
My time's about to expire, but I just want to thank you for being here today. I know you've put up with a lot from the other side of the aisle, and the reason that I'm so pleased with you being here and the way in which you've conducted yourself is because you've given short answers that center on the facts and the truth as you have observed it. And I appreciate that. You can ask any of my colleagues up here. You know you're getting the runaround when answers are really, really long and don't allow for you to get to all the questions that you have. So I appreciate you being here today, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.